Maureen just had such wonderful talents being director at our community theater. And then I find out that she is a retired nurse and a retired English instructor as well. So that, I'd love to hear more about that. She currently has an article in Bella.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be our topic tonight, that she's going to cover how to say the hard things. She has been a freelance writer for newspapers and publications. She even has 2 books, and I can't wait to get them, called Moonglade and Carolina Nights. So we have a very talented lady with us tonight. Thank you so much for coming.
The Arts Center had their poetry, by the way. The Arts Center has Carolina Nights. The other one is out of print now. It's older.
Is that so we can't get that one? Or?
Just Carolina Nights.
Okay.
Yeah, the other one I didn't print many of. It's a long time ago.
Well, I can't wait to read them. Let's bow our heads and say a small prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, guide us during these hard times that we have been through. And with your guidance, may we get well and overcome this COVID. Help our leaders, our educators, our ecclesiastical people, our political people to make wise and good choices. Bless our families in heaven and on earth. I'd like to read you this Irish blessing. I got a card from my dear friend Beverly in Illinois. She's wonderful. And you've probably heard this a million times, that may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Amen. Let's hear it for Maureen. Thanks for coming. I can't wait to hear what you say.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. And that article is in last month's Bella. Yes, I have something in this month too, but it's a different one. So.
Is it still at the store?
Probably not. I have one you can have from last month, but they take them away and put the new ones out, so they're out for a month.
And you've been in the Aiken Standard too.
Sometimes, yeah. That paper's gotten so small, they don't take a lot. I'm here tonight to share some information with you. When I was researching for the Bella article, I wanted to find out what was out there for people who are uncomfortable calling other people or reaching out when you need to show sympathy. And I know you probably have all had experience with that. It's an awkward conversation, and I wondered what we could do to make that a little easier. I didn't find a lot. The therapists don't seem to know. It's not really taught in nursing school that I remember, and I doubt that they cover it in medical school either. And yet this is something that comes up fairly often in our lifetime, and why should we feel awkward about it? Let's see what else is out there. And I hit upon one book, and it's called The Etiquette of Illness. It's by Susan Halpern. Susan is a psychotherapist and a cancer survivor. And when she recovered enough from her cancer to get back to her therapy, she decided she had always been working with cancer patients. That was her group that she worked with, and she loved it. But after she had been a patient and a therapist, she realized there was a niche that she really wanted to work with, and that was people who had all kinds of illnesses, and some of them for lifelong. And she felt she had some insight into that since she had been ill for over 2 years, and had also heard all their stories. So I'm going to rely on her. But when I read this book, I thought of all of you, because it's such a great guidebook. And it's got some very practical information that I haven't seen before. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. What do you say when you have a friend who has cancer? It's difficult. You know, how can you help without really getting in the way? You don't want to intrude. And if you're on the other side of the coin, and if you're a cancer patient, how do you ask for the help that you need from your friends without asking too much? It puts everybody in an awkward spot. So that's why I like this book. It's very practical, and she covers a lot of that sort of thing. We've all had the experience of having to express sympathy, or a loss or sadness, and finding the right words. Actually, in the research I found, there's no exact correct way. What's important is our intention and getting our concern out to the other people. We're very action-oriented human beings. We want to do something to help. We want to make them feel better. But with the first contact, sometimes we just really need a little help to get over, our awkwardness. There's really no protocol or training for this sort of thing. In our society, it's the job of the healthy to reach out to the sick, so it really puts the onus on each of us. Most people prefer to contact someone who has been recently diagnosed or has a death in the family by telephone. But we want to comfort them. We don't want to intrude. We're very concerned about intruding on their privacy or their illness or whatever is going on in their life. The important thing is the intent to do it, and also the listening. A lot of listening in a situation like this. We'll have a shared background with anyone we have to call. You wouldn't call a stranger and say, "I'm sorry your mother died." It's somebody that you know and you have a relationship with. So that makes it a two-way conversation if you can get it started. And what I like to say is, I don't know what to say to you, but I had to call. I think it's a pretty open-ended thing. You then just wait quiet for a minute and let them respond, and hopefully the flow will come back and forth. Now they might say, "I'm sorry, I can't do this now, I'm too upset," and that's fine, but you've made the outreach and you've expressed your concern, and hopefully they will come back later and communicate with you. Why is this outreach so hard for us? Maybe it's because we've never really experienced what the person is going through. If the person has a serious illness and we've not had that, or anyone in our family, we don't know how they're feeling. We don't know how they're grieving, how upset they are, so it's difficult. Another thing is, as we all get older, this kind of thing is going to come up more often in our own social group. We can be out with someone one night and, hear about, an illness or death the next day with the same people. So it's a little bit of a reflection of our own mortality. That's something that makes it uncomfortable for us. What can we do to help this out? Well, if you have a friend who is diagnosed with an illness, you can look it up online. And so you have a little bit of information, not to give her health advice, that's usually not suggested, but so you have a better understanding of what she may be going through, and you have a framework for your discussion. I like to tell people that when they have to make an uncomfortable call, to practice this, sort of like a role in a play. Write down what you want to say and read it aloud until you're comfortable with it, or even if you've memorized it. You want to keep your tone neutral. You don't want to come across all gloomy and upset them any more than they are already upset. But if you practice, you'll feel much more comfortable. Then the other hard thing is when to call. We're always afraid of disturbing people, especially in time of crises like that. And the therapists say, just do it, make the effort. If the person on the other end does not want to receive the call, they can let it go to their answering machine, and they will call you back if and when they want to. And sometimes if there are family members in the house, they will take on the job of receiving the calls and passing them on to the person, at their own, when the time is right. So anyway, you've made the effort and you've gotten it off of your mind. You've done the right thing. It's important not to give health advice. in a situation like this, because if a person is diagnosed with a serious illness, they probably have an inkling that something is coming because they've had testing and so forth. They've probably done their own research, and for us to say, oh, so-and-so had this, and they really had a rough time, but now they're all better, that's not really helpful. This is one specific person, and it's them. And they will do their own searching, or maybe they will call you and ask for help. Sometimes people need help with something like a clinical trial, and if you have the computer expertise to do that, that would be a great thing. But I would wait until they were asked. Sometimes if you offer too soon, it might offer resistance, and you get a little pushback on it. So, and also, don't tell war stories. Don't tell them about somebody else who had this disease and did horrible, or they went to that doctor and they had a very bad experience. It's not the time to do that. You need to keep it very comforting if you can. Slide one, please. These are a few suggestions to get started. I've already mentioned the first one. I don't know what to say, but I had to call. I like that because it's open-ended. It leaves it up to them whether they want to call you back or talk to you, and they usually will say something after that. I'm sorry you're having such a hard time is something neutral. The next one, if you have a neighbor, for instance, who's ill or lost her husband, sometimes if you say, what do you need most right now? You might be surprised at what they say. They might be a very much a pet person, and they're worried about their pet because there's all these family members around. The dog's hiding under the couch, and they're very concerned about something like that. And they'll say, "Could you walk my dog?" And that's something if you want to, that you could easily do. And it really gives them one less thing to worry about. And if you want to, you can offer to do it every day for a week or something, something practical to really help out. I'd like to say, I have some time tomorrow morning or Tuesday morning. Can I keep you company for a while? It's very specific. They know that you're coming, and you know that you're going at that time. You don't have to sit home and wait for a phone call, and they don't either. So it's specific, and they can say yes or they can say no, but kind of pins things down a little. Offering to pray is always a good thing to say to someone when you're reaching out to them. If you have to make this conversation long distance, it might be helpful to say, I'm so sorry that we're so far away right now, but I'm looking forward to being with you soon. That way you've made the connection, you've expressed your concern, and you'll do the next thing, whatever you have to do, go to the funeral or, visit with them another time. Any expression of love is always right. So. We worry too much about what we say. It's a matter of making sure that you do something, that you take the action, and spend time listening to them. Another thing you can do if you're not a person to pick up the phone like that is to send a note or a card. And I love this because I've been a note writer all my life. I've kept the notes people have sent me over 50 years. And all you have to do is reread that, and you remember them, you remember the times you spent together and so forth, and it's a real living memory. And I also have notes from my mother and my mother-in-law in their own handwriting over the years, and it's just, they've been gone a long time now. It's a great thing. And also they will mention something like, thank you for inviting us to Chris's birthday last weekend. And I didn't remember, that particular birthday out of all the ones we had. And I look at the note card and it's got the date up there. And I say, oh, that was his 5th birthday. It's just a reminder to someone who is kind of mired in illness. That little positive uplift is something they can revisit whenever they want to. I think writing a note, it's a legacy, it's a memory, and they can be reread by the family later on maybe, and by the person, who needs a little lift. When you write your notes, I do the same thing as with a phone call. I write down what I want to say first, and then write it onto the card. That way I can get it just the way I want it. It's important to express what is special about them to you. Like suppose your neighbor's husband died, and you could say something to her about he was so willing to always gather the newspapers, in the mail for us anytime we would go away. I love to go out and watch him working in his garden. He's a real gardener. Put something in there about his humor, his attitude. If he has a hobby, perhaps I remember how well she knitted or quilted, whatever, and something about how you valued them as a friend. She was always willing to sit down and have a cup of coffee. Those are the little things that the survivors or the family will remember and pass down. Children can learn their grandparents that way if they predeceased them, and they have this picture of their grandmother sitting, having a cup of coffee with somebody, which they may never have experienced otherwise. Positive notes uplift people, and so keep your notes positive. COVID-19 is the distancing is decreasing emotional support. They're really important notes and calls, and those of you who have care receivers who you've been seeing over the years, and if you can't see them now, pick up the phone and say a little something, or write them a note, send them a happy card. It can mean a lot to somebody who's not having visitors right now. Just be mindful of their privacy. If they share something with you having to do with their illness or the person, their mate's death or something like that, I really feel like it's not mine to share, and maybe that's the nursing background. We don't share that kind of information. It's their story to tell and not yours. But if they give you permission or say, tell so-and-so, that's a different story. Next thing, personality really determines what action you take when you're going to approach someone. Susan Halpern talks in here about a trip she was on. It was a business trip, and they went to Russia, and they were going to visit a public, I guess it was like a public housing, and all the people there, all the women there were widows. They didn't speak English, they had been through a war, and they had no family. So they were all in the same situation. They were going to go and talk to them. And they went to the first woman's apartment, and she was, nothing was good enough for the lady. She complained about everything. She was dissatisfied with life. Her lunch never came on time. Her apartment was dreary. And it was a very long visit, for them to get through. One floor up was a lady in the same situation who she called the Lady of Happiness. She said she had a similar background, but she would repeatedly thank them for their hospitality, even though they couldn't understand the language. She shared family pictures. She sat them at a little table with a tablecloth, offered them biscuits and tea, and was very grateful for the visit. She was much easier to spend time with, than this sad lady. And that's just personality. Sometimes you're dealing with not so much the illness as with the person's personality. And that's, you can commiserate with a sad person, but, to offer to take them outside for a walk is probably not going to make a bit of difference. But it's just something that is pretty much level over their lifetime, unless they're having some sort of a depressive disorder. It's kind of the way we react to life itself. Engage with the person in the best way that you can, but it's an enormous gift to give them to spend time with somebody who maybe doesn't appreciate it too much. There's one other kind of illness that Susan brings up. And this is about a chronic illness of a lingering and persistent way. It has its own set of needs and responses. And always remember that the humanness of the person is more important than the diagnosis. This can encompass anybody who has, heart disease, maybe a severe case of rheumatoid arthritis, anything that is going to extend out over their lifetime and probably impact, their mobility and their ability to get out. Personality trumps a lot, though. The people who have these, some of them are very cheerful, some are not. Some people who are diagnosed with a serious illness don't care to share. That's their personality. They want to just go on and get through it and enjoy the life that they have and not worry about, what's coming next. Other people, they think they need to teach the world about their diagnosis, and they will share, they will answer questions. They love the attention, they love the questions, the phone calls. It's just, depends on the way the person reacts, and your reaction, will have to fit that. I have something here I want to read. This is the psychiatrist's reaction. She said, "It took me 6 years of living with cancer to realize that I had a chronic condition. In the early years of my illness, I wanted to be asked, 'How are you? How are you doing? What's going on? Do you feel okay?' Or as one friend said, 'Do you feel as well as you look?' And then she said, I really felt that people were seeing me when they asked me and paid attention to me. Now, she says, I'm tired of the whole story. I just want to go about my life. I don't want to report the ups and downs of every CAT scan or visit to more than a few people. I have no need for cancer to be part of my conversation." This is a big change from the early years, and I suspect it's not unusual for people with chronic illnesses, so it's a kind of a continuum. You will respond to wherever they are. The initial diagnosis takes getting used to. Talking about my lymphoma to friends, using those words over and over again, made it real to me. This was in the beginning. And she says, now I no longer need to tell others, and I don't care if anyone asks. So she's gotten her life back to what's tolerable for her, although I guess she knows the threat is there. But this is just a little bit of what is going on in people's minds sometimes when, you are a caregiver, and they don't always verbalize it. Sometimes when we have care receivers who are at the end of life or close to it, we find kind of a dichotomy. Some people want to share their lives and really make an effort at dying well. Caregivers hear expressions of fear and anger and sadness and joy. And, I know you're non-judgmental, but it can be difficult. It's a real act of kindness to sit with people who are ill or coming to the end of life. This particular lady was a cancer patient, and she said there were many days where she was recovering from her treatments, and she didn't really feel well. But her friends came around anyway, and they did not know what to say to her. And they say, what do you want me to do? And she said, would you read to me? And they said, sure, she's a real reader. And they said, well, which book? And she had a stack of books ready for them. And I think it was all Jane Austen. That's what she liked. So her friend would pick up the book and start reading. And quite often, Susan would fall asleep. But she said even in her sleep, she could hear the drone of a friend's voice saying familiar things. What a gift that is. And sometimes when the reader got tired, she would close the book and just sit there for a while, or sometimes they left. And when they left the bookmark in the book, the next person that came in picked it up and started reading. And I thought, that's kind of neat. That's what she wanted, and that's what they did. And there's other things that we can do too. Sometimes, excuse me.
A lot of people have found that saying the rosary out loud is very comforting.
That's an idea too. I'm getting
partly because they're remembering.
Yes, they do remember it. Some people are very focused on tying up loose ends and having the loved ones gathered around. They want their certain level of consciousness, a sense of completion and resolution, and acceptance in their way of dying and the their loved ones. And we have to accept other people's way of letting go, even it may not be what we quite would want. Some other people may want to be alone and just, left alone. Sometimes the elderly and the very ill welcome death because it's, a relief to what has been a long-term illness. Slide number 3 or 2, please. Sometimes when we're sitting with the elderly or people who maybe are not quite grounded in the time, some of the things you might ask them, if you can go back in time a little bit and get them grounded. What did you like to do when you were 6 years old? That might spark something in them. Or what was your worst day at school? Or your best friend, who was that? What did you do in the summertime? The one I like is, do you have a photo album we could look at? And that can take up a lot of time, and that might just bring them to some memories that they want to talk about, and you can get them moving a little bit. I like that last one too. What would you change if you could? I think you could ask that of almost any patient that you spend time with and see what they say. The obvious answer would be, I'd rather not be sick, but you might find some other interesting things there. So these are just a few ideas of what you might talk to. You've got to spend a lot of time with people at their bedside. Some of the things we might do, applying hand lotion is very soothing, and it also helps to, help the skin a little bit. Moistening lips if it's, late in the process. Soft music in the background is always nice. Candles, prayers, the rosary, things like that. Has anybody here, any of you know the phrase, the healing touch? Phyllis, do you know that? I know it's something that some of the nurses I know do. Actually, I think it's a combination of Eastern therapy and some kind of mindfulness and probably meditation. What it is, it's a belief that there's an energy field over the body and it gets disrupted when a person is sick, and it's a kind of just disrupting that field, getting it back in there. It's just almost a psychology type thing. A lot of people find great comfort in that. I don't know, whether you believe that or not, but it may be something that one of the therapists that work with your patient can use. And
It's called what?
the healing touch. I had a nurse friend of mine in Ohio call me before I had surgery a number of years ago, and she asked if she could do the healing touch over the phone, and I said, yes, and she did, and, I'm fine, and it was fine, so I have no idea if that's why, but it's something interesting to think about. It's just kind of opening to your mind to other possibilities, and it doesn't hurt anything. They don't touch you. It's usually all, non-touching, so anyway. In conclusion, I want to say there are no magic words that will make a difference, really. The important thing is to show intent and concern, and that is enough. And you are enough. If you make a call to a friend like that, they are going to appreciate it. Don't be afraid to do it. If you're interested, The Etiquette of Illness by Susan Halpern is available on Amazon, and I highly recommend it. Thank you. Any questions?
Maureen,
Yes.
the healing touch is it's a practice in nursing. My best friend in Washington, D.C. has a practice, and she does that.
Okay.
And she doesn't touch the patient.
Right.
She just uses the energy between her hands
Mm-hmm.
and the patient. And she says it's really working.
It's been around for a long time. I don't see it much here, When we were in Ohio, I heard about it from time to time, and I really don't know that much about it. I just know that it's something that people find comforting, and why not if it comforts the patient? It's a
Like you said, it doesn't hurt.
it doesn't hurt anything. Yeah. It's not anti-Catholic or anything like that. It's just
She's an avid Catholic, and so it's a good combination.
Yes.
Her being Catholic and then practicing.
yes. And I know there are other non-nurses that do it. I'm not sure how many or where they are.
When it started.
What?
I just wonder when this started in nursing.
I
I mean,
know.
I am an albatross, so.
I am too.
My sister's an acupuncturist and she's done it for decades.
I can't understand
My
you.
sister's an acupuncturist.
Oh, yes,
And
yes.
she's
Now
done-
that's invasive,
She's
but
done, she's done that for decades.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. there must be something to it. It's been around an awfully long time.
The hands guide themselves or a problem area?
No. You guide them. It's just to rearrange the energy field
Just
so.
don't touch the patient.
Yeah, but I mean,
Over-
No,
over any-
it's supposed to redirect the healing back into the body.
Whatever part of the body needs.
hmm
I'm gonna look it up. I think
Yeah,
it's very
I've always thought it was interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
And
I think any kind of touch too is, when I just did, I volunteered as a chaplain assistant.
mhm.
And I found that if you touch the patient when you pray with them, I think it meant so much more than praying
Mhm.
over them or
Mhm.
being in a chair
Yeah,
somewhere. But
yeah.
of course, Kathy always said you have to ask if you can
Yeah,
touch.
yeah.
And that's fine, but
Mhm.
most people want it. It's
Yes,
not-
they do.
Touch a shoulder, touch a
Mhm.
hand, an arm,
Mhm.
whatever.
It's just that human connection,
It is.
and especially if they've been alone for a long time, they really crave that. It's comforting. Yeah.
It's easier to pray than to touch it.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when you're visiting somebody who's, I don't know how you describe them, but they're just down or down,
hmm
how, is there a clue to how you know whether they really just have you rather leave? Or
They-
really,
they
they'd
really-
rather you just leave? Or
I
they
would
actually kind of like you being there to somebody to come, how do you know?
I think I would ask them. That's the most direct thing to do. And you can say, you won't hurt my feelings, would you rather I left? But you don't want to give up too soon either. And if it truly is a depression, it's difficult. And it's not something that, you can heal with a manicure or a walk outside or something like that. There's a need for that. But anyway, I think if you would read this, I think it would be a great help. I thought of you all when I read it. It's a good book.